Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng pera. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tulong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing giting at tigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng kwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugod, todo sa kayod, tulong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing giting nagigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan.
Pagbati po mga Katipuneros, this is Cardinal Chito Tagle. Join me every week on the Word Exposed on Air, here on the voice of the Blue Eagle, Radio Katipunan 87.9 FM, the Ateneo Campus Radio.
The voice of the Blue Eagle. Radyo Katipunan 87.9. Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng pera. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tulong at tulong.
rejoice, refresh, renew, and reflect. Join us for an hour of music that uplifts the soul. Listen to your favorite Jesuit music ministry artists. This is JMM Radio. JMM Radio. Get your day's dose of inspirational music. Tune in to JMM Radio every Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. Only here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM.
Pagsapit ng gabing kulimlim, naririto ako. Papawiin ko ang lumbay mo. Nang saya at aakayin ko ang pagsikat ng umaga. Yakapin mo kaloob kong buhay sa iyo. Sa piling ko damhin mo ang mundo. Sa kapwa mo muling mabibigo. Kapayapaan ko lamang ang sasagip sa iyo. Anumang tagal ng gabi, kasama mo ako. Di mo man tanto, narito ako. Ang buhay kong nagdudulot ng buhay sa iyo. Kadi
You have just heard a song from the Jesuit Music Ministry. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube. We are also on iTunes and Deezer.
Okay, ayan. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat and welcome to another edition of your JMM Radio only here on Radio-Katipunan 87.9 FM, the voice of the Blue Eagle at Ateneo Campus Radio. Yes, magandang gabi sa iyo.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Lester Mendiola and we are broadcasting from our homes as usual. Mapapanood po ninyo ang aming broadcast sa Radyo Katipunan Facebook page, Jescom, Jesuit Music Ministry at Ateneo de Manila University. Sa ating mga artist pages, kami rin po ay nasa YouTube, Radyo Katipunan at sa Twitter.
Yes, and of course, if you're within the 2-kilometer radius of the Ateneo de Manila University campus, you can listen to us via traditional radio at 87.9 FM frequency band.
Yes.
And also on online radio at jescom.ph/radio-katipunan. Okay. Sorry, ang ano ng boses ko ngayon medyo bedroom voice ako kasi ewan ko for some reason medyo napapaos ako the past few days. Pero
Nag-concert ka ba, Jazz?
Oh, hindi naman. Pero siguro baka kakainom lang ng malamig kasi grabe ang init, 'di ba? The past few days, napakainit. Lalo pang uminit dahil sa eleksyon. Which is ayun, so medyo napapaos kasi dahil nga siguro sa pag-inom ng malamig. Anyway, speaking of alam naman po natin the past few days have been a bit heated and rough. Rough ba? Rough pa talaga. But of course, it has been a very historic moment for us, of course, because again, we exercised our our right and duty as a Filipino sa pag-participate natin sa national and local elections, yung ating
napabura yung
ayan, ito ang mga katibayan.
Ayan, parang siya, yung parang malapit na mamatay yung kuko. Diba?
Sa akin naman medyo may marka pa rin ng pagka-blue.
Nagba-brown
kahit
na
paano. Oo. Pero yun nga, parang na rin yung tipong naipit ka sa pinto, ganyan. Tapos medyo mamamatay na yung kuko mo. So, ganong levels na siya.
Kumusta ang voting experience mo, Justin?
Ako kasi I made it sure that I will wake up early and be on the kailangan mauna tayo doon sa kumbaga maaga maipasok yung boto ko kasi aside from the fact na na excited ka, also may trabaho tayo dahil of course we are
correct.
We have our election special. Right, nung Monday. So I voted with my mother. Yung mother ko naman ay senior. So medyo somehow 'di ba dapat may tawag doon lanes. So siya naman medyo may pila naman, may maayos naman kahit paano may pila. At separate yung mga may priority, and also with yung regular lang. Sabi ko sa kanya na kung kakayani naman, umakyat na lang kami dun sa presinto namin instead of voting dun sa merong mga presintong inallocate sa babae na para at least hindi na kailangang umakyat, and then ayun, kasi yun lang sabi ko sa kanya, parang kung kaya mo namang umakyat, sige akyat na lang tayo para mabilis, 'di ba? Kasi nakita ko rin ang haba ng pila mahaba ng pila ng senior. And we finished siguro roughly mga 25 minutes, 30 minutes lang, after we got in, which is again At we went there 5:30 in the morning and the line was already, long. So, doon ko lang nakita yun actually, no? Dati tayo nagsiserve tayo sa PPCRB din before, no? Doon mga nakaraang eleksyon, pansin naman natin, hindi naman ganun na yung pumila talaga ng maaga.
In fact,
Mas
ako, usually bumoboto ko ng hapon kasi wala ng tao ng hapon.
Yeah,
Pero
ako din.
for these elections, kasi I'm not very familiar with how Comelec is going to run it because of the pandemic. So I really made sure to wake up early as well. So ako naman, natapos din ako more than siguro 30 minutes ng pagboto. I woke up early at 6 and then around 6:20, 6:30 I was already at the precinct. Maayos naman. Okay pa yung mga teachers. Ano pa sila, malalamig pa yung ulo. Tsaka yung mga
fresh. Medyo fresh pa lahat Oo, kasi nga maaga. Pero yun nga, no, nakakalungkot na after noon, mga around tanghali, ito na, nakakarinig na ako ng mga bali-balita, no, na sunod-sunod na yung mga nasisira. Correct, no? Yung mga and also some disenfranchised voters na wala sa listahan kahit na bumoto na sila noon pa, which is somehow, I don't know, no, it's a perennial problem. Or every election na lang parang gano'n na lang, laging may gano'n di ba, na may mga mawawala sa listahan kahit na bumoto naman sila and they have proof that they voted. We don't know, no, pero ang dami lang talagang and again, yun nga, no, after that medyo tuloy-tuloy rin yung yung mga nakukuha nating hindi magagandang balita that in some areas hindi pa nga naging maayos talaga ang naging conduct, no. And of course nakikiramay kami dun sa mga kasi alam ko may mga nasawi pa nga, di ba, sa
Oo,
issue.
tapos meron ding mga nag-antay hanggang midnight or madaling araw. I've heard cases like that na kasi di ba parang kung hindi nag-work yung VCM sa presinto mo, parang you need to sign a waiver na yung DI na lang or yung teacher na lang.
Iiwan mo na lang yung balota at bahala na ang mga board of election
kapag nagawa na. So sana this is not the first election na automated. I hope yung Comelec will learn. Kasi parang paulit-ulit yung mga cases. Pero just hindi yan yung topic natin today. Hindi tungkol sa mga
nangyari.
Nasirang VCM. We'll talk about the results of the election and probably the process that led us to the results. Kasi ngayon parang meron na tayong idea on a local government perspective, ang dami nang naproklama, di ba? Mga mayor, vice mayor, mga konsehal, ganyan. Sa national level, medyo malinaw na yung based on the official count at least, no, kung sino yung nananalo. So pag-uusapan natin yung results at yung ating mga pakiramdam tungkol doon sa mga nangyari. Kasi I think kailangan nating iproseso yung itong nakaraang halalan. Okay?
Correct. That's why tonight, no, for our episode for JMM Radio, we'll tackle a little bit about our feelings of what happened as well, no, with the past with the past exercise that we've done, and we actually have some friends, no, who are here to join us and also share their insights, their opinions, their feelings and thoughts about what happened. Makakasama natin ang ating mga kaibigan mula sa Prophet Project PH. Ayan. For your information,
paborito natin ito
Oo, no. Actually, nag-guest na rin natin sila I think that was even pre-election, we actually
had about the discernment. Political discernment.
Political discernment, correct. At sila yung nagbabalik, no, dito sa ating for this episode. So
Nagbabalik
pero
kasi kasama celebrity.
Nax may celebrity.
Oo.
Oo, correct. Ayan. So, ano lang, no, para lang sa kaalaman ng ating mga katipuneros, no, if you also missed that episode, no, Profit Project PH is a community, no, of young professionals and or it's a mixed community seeking to integrate faith and justice, deep spirituality, and radical praxis. So they uphold Jesus as their our savior and liberator, offering us liberation from personal and social oppression, freeing us towards a life of love, compassion, justice, hope, and courage. Yeah. So, mga kaibigan, ang ating po mga makakasama ngayong gabi, walang iba kundi si Karlo Abadines, si Johanne Arceo, at ang ating celebrity, Nax, talaga naman, si Ginoong Romar Chuca, ang ating Catholic comedian. Magandang gabi sa inyo mga kapatid.
Hello.
Good
Good evening.
Good evening, Pose.
Welcome back to JMM Radio.
Salamat ulit sa pag-imbita sa amin. No?
And thank you again for so maraming salamat ulit at nagpabudol kayo sa amin.
Marami na tayong utang sa kanila, Jazz.
Oo nga eh. Grabe. Sobrang we have to meet talagang in person na, 'di ba? Soon. Correct. Anyway, at least we are already meeting here, no? And it's we are offering this venue as a way for us to try to understand lang what exactly just happened. Kasi parang marami sa atin ngayon, and I'm really sure a lot of us are having mixed emotions. Of course, no, there's the feeling of grief for a lot, no, who of course are on the losing end of this election. And then there are some naman who are they are of course jubilant, but yet parang medyo may doubt pa rin, di ba? There's a cloud of doubt. And they cannot fully say then that they are fully jubilating, di ba? So anyway, ang natin siguro muna bago tayo pumunta doon sa processing part. Kayo muna parang share with us how was your experience nitong nakaraang eleksyon natin. Siguro simulan natin kay Karlo.
Wow. Sige, well ako it was first time ko na-experience na ganun ako katagal sa pila. So, at doon ko siguro naramdaman na gusto ko ipaglaban yung boto ko. Kasi tempted na talaga ako. So for listeners po, no, around 7 hours, 15 minutes. And that's not the worst, no? For most, I think there were already some people with the BCM, di ba, mess up na medyo tumagal pa. Pero 7 hours, no, sa init, wala namang masyadong shade, may areas talaga na 2 hours walang shade. Alam mo yung ganun, no? So that was really a different kind of experience, no? And I don't know, I guess ako minsan titinan ko lang, mataas yung turnout. I think this is a high election turnout compared to usual, no? I think noong 2016 ata 80%, pero ngayon parang nag-81, 82, parang pataas yung amount natin, no? So mataas yung interest talaga ng mga tao sa election na to, and people really wanted to vote, no? At nakita natin yung conviction din ng mga tao na ayaw umalis ng precinct nila, no? Kasi gusto talaga nila, di ba, makita na pinapasok nila yung ballot nila mismo sa makina, no? So yun siguro, I think that's one. And later baka mas pwede pa natin pag-usapan. It was also a very contentious election. I think mainit siya. Patuloy pa rin mainit ang online environment natin. Baka pwede din natin pag-usapan yun, no? Pero yun, dun siguro ako mag-umpisa na I think this is the first time na feel ko talaga pinaglaban ko na gusto ko bumoto kahit struggle na yun talaga.
Okay, how about si Johanne?
Hello, ayan. Naririnig, ayan. Okay po.
my experience of this election, yun nga, katulad pareho kami ni Karlo ng precinct, no? So, ako siya sa 7 hours, ako nasa 6 hours-ish, magsa 7 na rin. I think what's special about this particular election is ito yung first time kong bumoto kasama yung family ko. So may pag-invested kami as a whole family dito sa elections na to. Ito yung first time na naging mas watchful in a sense kasi talagang kahit during that time na nasa pila kami, binabantayan namin kung kamusta yung mga nangyayari sa ibang precincts. And sa pila pa lang, no, nung nakikita pa lang namin na may mga anomalya sa ibang precincts, no? Parang ang taas na kagad ng anxiety. I think that's also one thing that I'd also like to emphasize about this particular election of 2 days before, 1 day before, taas na ng anxiety level ng circles ko, no, me included. Even during the counting, yun very invested personally, emotionally, psychologically yung mga tao no, sa elections na to. Yun lang. Yeah, we can begin with that.
At
How about si
syempre.
Romar from Bukidnon?
Actually, sa Fairview ako bumoto.
So umuwi ka ng...
Umuwi ako for a week. Last Tuesday, dumating ako. And then, ito, kakarating ko lang ng Bukidnon today. Pero yung voting experience ko sa Fairview was parang tinry, I assumed na kung ano yung naging experience ko nung kasi this is my third elections that I participated in. So parang inassume ko na parang kung ano yung experience ko from before, ganun din. So what happened kasi was in the morning, pumunta kami nung sister ko and then yung kung sa mga people na familiar sa Fairview layout, abot hanggang almost from Fairview Elementary School, abot hanggang Commonwealth yung pila. And layo nun. So parang sabi ko sa ate ko, "Oy, mamaya na tayo, sa hapon na lang tayo." Kasi for the past 2 elections, hapon talaga ako bumoboto. And then, yun nga, napatunayan nga na parang kung ano yung nangyari before, ganun din lang dapat na parang pasok kami at around 2:30 p.m. Tapos, yun, maghanap lang ng tamang gate. And then, meron akong technique ever since na parang I look for my room first and then backtrack kung nasaan yung end ng pila. Pero yun, I look for my room, walang pila, pasok, boto ka agad. So mga 3 to 5 minutes tapos na. Yun yung nangyari sa akin. And yun, nagulat ako na parang, talaga, ito na yun. Tapos parang, ang laki nung difference niya doon sa, for example, yung pinsan ko sa may, I don't know if Teachers Village area ba yun or ano. Yun sila yung mga talagang inabot ng 1 a.m., mga 12:30 a.m. na hinintay yung mga SD card, no? So, yun, nainggit ako kasi may pakain yung mga yun eh. Tapos walang pakain yung quick voting eh. So, may mga tumulong kasi, especially so, yun.
Pero kasi
mga pagkain. Anyway, yun lang.
Pero kasi 'di ba yun nga we've heard of stories na they started lining up as early as 9 in the morning but then they finished at 3 a.m. just to vote. And talagang I can imagine the grueling experience that they went through, diba? As compared to us, no, yung mga medyo sinuwerte na ang bilis lang na nakaboto, no. Yours, I guess, is the fastest among all of us here, di ba? Pero yun, no? Magkaganon man, ang daming talagang no? Ang daming tanong na papasok sa'yo na bakit kada eleksyon na lang. Di ba? Ang dami nating ganyang mga problema. And we're supposed to sana find, di ba, solace in the fact na this is already an automated election. So parang somehow automating it will make it fast, 'di ba? Na in terms of the process, no? Pero parang surprisingly, no, na grabe ang delay, no, na cause. And ang nakakatawa minsan yung malalaman mo ang mga dahilan lang ay kasi 'di ba sira yung SD card.
Sira yung SD card.
Ito kung siguro sinasabi nila dati 'di ba yung pag mga may ganun daw 'di ba you have a backup. So okay, so there's a backup. Pero parang why will it take sobrang tagal, 'di ba? Parang inabot ka ng oras bago mo makuha yung replacement. SD card lang naman yun, 'di ba? Maliit lang naman yun. So yung mga ganung questions, 'di ba? But again, yun na nga, no? We've been through a lot of those elections. But again, siguro anong difference nito pa rin, no? From the rest.
Kanina, nabanggit ni Johanne na parang the anxiety level is different, and then the entire family and circle of people around her is invested. Why do you think this 2022 national and local elections is different from the rest of the elections that we had in the past?
Pwede kong dugtungan niya, no? I think one of the major reasons is that this particular elections, nabanggit ko to in the past, no? Talagang naging sentro yung usapin ng values, at saka naging sentro yung usapin ng kung ano yung yung values ng gusto mong presidente would also reflect your personal values, no? Isang bahagi rin siguro nun ay kung sino yung mga tumatakbo, right? Obviously, this particular elections, bumalik yung usapin tungkol sa martial law, yung mga biktima ng martial law, human rights issues, especially coming from the impunity of the extrajudicial killings from the Duterte administration. I think doon pumalibot, no, yung sentiments ng mga tao kung bakit naramdaman nila na this is an election that they really have to participate in, not just on a political level but also na an emotional level, no, because their personal values are at stake. Kaya siguro din naging tawag na importante, no, na yung kandidato na nagre-represent ng values na gusto nilang makita sa administration will be elected into power. I would also say na baka hindi rin siya automatic na tama, right? Necessarily a correct way of voting, because these are all subjective issues. No, this may be very personal. This might be not entirely strategic. No, naging maswerte lang na lumaki yung momentum ng particular candidate who represents good governance, who represents everything that's opposite, impunity. Kaya nagkaroon ng kumbaga polarity in a sense doon sa top 2 candidates. Kaya naging mas maigting yung anxiety kasi naging malinaw na may chance manalo yung isang particular candidate against a candidate that is entirely different from their values. So parang sa perspective ng mga maraming tao, naging good versus evil siya. No? I think that's where it's coming from. Kaya naging invested emotionally and morally, spiritually yung mga tao.
Gandang inote yun, ano, yung polarity, no, because of the wanting of people to magnify yung kanilang personal values as their expression of who they want to vote and who they want to be leading them, no? Kasi nga naman, syempre, 'di ba, sino ba naman ang gugustuhin mo na leader na umano sa iyo, na umakay sa iyo, 'di ba? Syempre yung kaparehas mo na ng ugali, ng prinsipyo, ng mga paniniwala. So kaya ganoon na lang siguro talaga marami sa atin na magiging invested on it.
Nag-unmute si Karlo. Maybe Karlo has something to add as well.
Yes.
Actually, interesting na for me, medyo I look at these things from of course I have a candidate that I supported, no, but I guess I went around I went around actually to visit all the meeting the advances, most of the candidates, no. I wanted to know what it was like, no. And gusto ko lang dugtungan yung sinasabi nga ni Joe about polarities. There are different worlds that we are operating in completely. I think after results ng elections, naging klaro yun, no, na there is a literal rift and divide between people supporting different candidates, no. So I went to a candidate's MDA, no, before I ended up in Makati at some point, no. But in that sense, I saw the worlds. And when people say na this movement brings hope, what people forget is that people also find hope in the other candidates' movement, No, so when we talk about value system, even no, I think that's when it becomes a bit more complicated because ako necessarily sasabihin natin we align with people we value whose values we align with, no. But to a certain extent, I have a feeling that there are people in the other candidates who have the same values as us, but see that those values in their candidate. Parang see what you want to see, no? Parang ganun yung weird situation ngayon, no? And I think that's what we are now forced to contend with after the results, no? Na gusto natin sabihin na yung mga tao na yon hindi natin sila ka-value, no? Hindi parehas yung value sila. Pero honestly, I think we all want genuinely similar things, no? I think we want development for ourselves. We want a better life. We value the futures of our children, our families, etc. But for some weird reason, they see it in another candidate. No? Bakit gusto ko emphasize to? Because I think at this moment, the invitation personally for me is we need to understand that one, there is a rift. And two, we are being invited to understand what's on the other side of the rift. Not to judge it from our value system, but to literally go there and understand what are they seeing that we are not. No, and I think that's I don't like polarizations. I think we need to depolarize the environment actually kasi medyo delikado yung nangyayari ngayon, no. Pero yun lang siguro yung first point ko when it comes to this full polarization. The reality is I've gone to all the different rallies and all of them find hope somehow.
I think Karlo, I understand that somehow kasi when I went house to house and talked to people on the ground and asked them who they're voting, what they want in the candidate, lumalabas yun sa ground. And it's true that when you said na yung values that we're looking at, the candidate that we support, it's almost the same with what they're looking at. Kasi yun yung lumabas sa pakikipag-usap sa ground. Siguro we can move to our next topic, which is pagkatapos ng halala, para nag-start ng mag-release ng results through the transparency server of COMELEC, and then that's parang mas tumaas yung anxiety ng mga tao, and there are some people who are disheartened, and then the war on social media is not stopping. Siguro yung tanong is ano yung advice natin sa mga tao that are disheartened with the results of the elections. Kasi on Twitter, I've been seeing sentiments like, I don't want to help anymore. I don't want to do ayoko na mag-volunteer or mga ganong emosyon, no? People are disheartened and disappointed with the results, and somehow those are the kinds of reaction that we're seeing. What's your advice to them?
Siguro ako parang ang nakikita ko dyan, Les, is ang hirap tanggalin. Parang I could give an advice to people right now, pero ang hirap tanggalin because, di ba, parang I think that's the issue with social science, no? You can't remove yourself from what you're studying or you're talking about. So, pero parang if there is something, no, parang what I learned with talking, kunwari sila Karlo, sila Jo, is ang social media kasi na nangyayari is nagkakaroon ng echo chamber, no, na parang ang nangyayari kasi eventually is and I see it with my friends and with ako I don't what do you call this? I don't unfollow or I don't unfriend people. It's they who unfriend me. Sila yung nag-unfriend sa akin. Pero parang as much as I can, kapag meron ako nakikita na different side parang of the different opinion, no, parang what I try to do on a personal level is, yun nga, makita pa rin na, hey, hindi lahat ng mga kaibigan ko ito yung sinasabi. Tapos, nagiging mas realistic kahit papano at mas na-humanize ko yung other person, no? Kasi pag patuloy lang dun sa news feed ko or sa mga ano, yung nakikita ko is yung mga taong who voted for the same people as I did. Yun nga, the danger is baka mas pataas ng pataas yung walls with other people, no? So for me, actively I do not unfriend people kasi yun nga, I want to humanize the other camps as much as possible kasi alam kong yun nga, parang in essence, no, mga tao din sila even if at this very moment super hirap niyang tanggapin. Yun po, yun yung akin.
Siguro, ako po pwede ko din madagdag doon, no, sa sinabi ni Romar. Isa sa mga bagay na paulit-ulit kong binabalikan nitong mga nakaraang araw, no, after the election results, we really have to recognize that what we're experiencing is grief. Mostly in my circles. So I guess when we say we're feeling disheartened, it's mostly because of grief, no? Parang something that we were fighting for in the past months. Tapos sa isang election results, nakita natin na parang, ay, hindi pala tayo nanalo or hindi na-advance yung gusto nating i-advance. And so, to be able to really process this grief, you really have to be able to identify the stages of this grief, no? To really be able to recognize kung nasaan tayo sa puntong ito ng grief na yon, and to not do anything that is irreversible during the height of our emotions. So if what is irreversible for different people might be different for a lot of people, no? Pero yung katulad ng mga napag-uusapan ngayon na gusto ko na mag-abroad, gusto ko nang maglipat ng career, gusto ko nang hindi ipagpatuloy yung mga ginagawa ko during the elections, no? These are things that might be irreversible. So wag nating subukang gawan ng decisions that are categorically final during this time.
Interesting lang yung sinasabi ni Jo. Kasi tama eh. I've actually seen na dumadami talaga yung mga tao na nag-express na aalis na ako ng bansa. Mga ganun mga bagay. No? And I always remember a general Jesuit advice, di ba? Sasabihin nila, never make a decision, di ba? When you are very happy, in high emotion, or in your low emotion and extreme. So never make decisions in extremes, no? At yun. At I guess the second thing connected ng sinasabi ni Jordan, no? I think part of the irreversible is not even just the decisions, no, but even things that are said, no. I saw someone said na parang sabi lang niya na, I think we need to forgive people for what they are saying in Twitter, in Facebook. And part of me understands that, di ba? Na parang you are in the stage of grief, anger. I'm not sure nasa tayo sa stage na yun, no? But may ganun, no? But part of me also thinks that Facebook and Twitter is a public platform. No. So whatever you say, kahit humingi ka man ng forgiveness after, no, the damage can be done. No? I mean, and I think that's sometimes the scary thing about social media, right? Because you get so full of something, an emotion, at gusto mo i-tweet away, di ba? Ganun, di ba? But at the end of the day, it's not easy to reverse that, no? And part of me thinks now we are being conditioned also to, do that thing. And as early as now, the divisions have become even greater. As in, like, yung iniisip ko, lumalabas na dito yung mga biases ng mga tao against each other. Lumabas na talaga yung sabi na parang kasalanan to ng isang grupo ng tao dito sa ating lipunan. Alam mo yung ganon, di ba? As in, it's coming out. And to me, it's like, hala, we're gonna play the blame game. We're gonna divide and create even deeper rifts, right? And part of me thinks it's because people are really just pouring out things in social media. And I don't know, maybe because I'm a private person, I prefer saying, maybe we can chat it. Hindi naman agad kailangan Facebook. Maybe you need someone to talk to us about. So I don't know, may ganun akong worry, about what's happening right now.
Pwedeng i-PM na lang, kaya DM.
Well, given that, no, parang are we somehow are we anticipating a social war in that sense?
Hirap ng question.
Social war.
So I don't know. I mean, kasi yun na nga, granted that there has been a lot of emotional diba, parang outpouring and also antagonizing, diba? Parang may ganun bang feels somehow?
I think for me, no, sa mga circles na mga nakikita ko so far, especially mga circles lang na kinabibilangan ko, parang may bumabalik sa akin yung scene sa movie ni Oscar Romero na yung although hindi naman to art, we're not talking about arms, no, but what we're talking about is words, no, and naalala ko isang eksena doon yung siligawan ni Romero yung isang pari na may hawak-hawak na yun nga na arms, no, na you are not defending, you are attacking, and when you attack you become someone like them, tapos parang when you attack you lose God, no, so parang yun yung parang it reminds me, no, na parang ang hirap wala akong masagot talaga as of the moment, pero parang ang masasabi ko about it really is ang hirap maging mabait, especially pag kunwari alam mo yun, parang alam mo yung injustisya na pinanghuhugutan ng mga tao, etc. So yun, kung may nasagot man ako sa question ni Justin. Yun.
The other day, I saw a post on social media saying that the results of the presidential elections failed us. Yung mga institusyon natin, it's, the results is a failure of our institutions. What do you think about this? Do you think na yung institutions natin really failed us? Like, say, for example, yung mass media, education system natin, yung mismong pamahalaan, and the people around us?
First take ako para hindi tapos papasok ako kina Karlo at kina Romar, no. I think the quick answer is yes, no. Just because I can say, no, parang that the institutions, we've lost our trust in institutions, probably like our education systems, the church as an institution, the Comelec as an institution, the government as an institution, diba? Parang for some reason we've lost our trust in the formal processes, and kaya rin siguro isa-isang banda naging maganda din because we felt like we are empowered to take matters into our own hands, no. Pero in terms of the formation of the social or the communal psyche, I guess, just the fact that we're seeing people coming from different from different political leanings at war with each other, as you might say, no. I think it's also a lack of formation, no, na pwede sana napunan, no, ng ating simbahan, ng ating mga eskwelahan, no. Sa isang banda baka pwede rin nating makita yun ng lack of political empowerment, no. For a really long time we've seen so many sectors being disenfranchised by the government in terms of their participation in the decision making, and so din nila na mahirap para sa kanilang maging gano'n ka-invested sa kanilang boto, and so whatever is convenient for them would drive the way they vote. Yun. So actually during this whole thing, tumatakbo ng paulit-ulit sa isip ko is kung nararamdaman lang ng bawat isang tao kung gaano kalaki at kung gaano kabigat yung ambag ng boto nila sa magiging takbo ng Pilipinas, baka nagkaroon at least, no, ng isang mas aligned, no, na basehan sa pagboboto, no. Naging mas madaling pag-usapan yung plataporma, naging mas madaling pag-usapan kung ano ba yung mga values na hinahanap natin na to a certain degree mas aligned sa isa't isa. No? And I really think it's because a lot of us would feel the disenfranchisement on different levels. And so we would have different ways of looking at our political participation for this coming election.
Typically, I would say yes talaga in terms of I think institutions have failed. But part of me also thinks na hindi ko alam parang are we expecting so much in such a short period of time? No? What I mean, the cycle of the Philippines has always been democratic. There are terms, no? Parang inaayos natin institution natin, tapos may papasok, tapos sisirain niya. Tapos may ayusin na naman natin siya. At nagkakaroon na naman ng paninira. No? So to a certain extent, never naayos ang mga institusyon natin. It really was in a weird brokenness to it. No? That's one. No? And our political culture, for example ngayon, political dynasties are just dominating everywhere. As in they're taking more and more seats. And it's just, that's becoming our reality. And alam naman natin harmful siya. It's a sickness. At one level though, I think we really have to confront economic issues. No? Talagang when we talk about the conditions of people's lives, I mean, you would hear workers who would say na hindi tumaas masyado yung wages nila, even if they've been working for 10 years, the same factory, they've lost a limb, pero hindi pa rin tumataas yung sweldo nila. No? Or di pa rin sila umuunlad sa buhay. No? I think that is a deep frustration na parang hindi naman gumagana ang gobyerno. Di ba? Parang ganun yung ano nila, right? And then suddenly someone comes in and says, di ba, na I'll fix it for you, right? I will be the new guy who's gonna make sure that, makukuha niya yung pera na kinuha sa amin. Di ba? Mga ganun na bagay, di ba? So ako, I always think about it na people analyze this problem as disinformation. Yes, I think it is a big problem is disinformation, for example, in how the elections turned out. But I think there is a deep-seated frustration, not just at our government, but our economic, like the way that we fix our economy to a certain extent, di ba? I mean, pwede mo sabihin, umunlad tayo sa time ni Pinoy, but how many people felt that? Yun yung galit ng mga tao, di ba? Na parang, nasabi niya, lumalaki GDP natin, pero parang di naman niya naramdaman. Di ba? Parang ganun yung feel ng mga tao. And I think we have to confront that head on as people moving forward. What do we do moving forward? We have to answer these questions, no? And reflect on it very concretely. Di ba? Parang ganun yung isip ko.
That's true. Actually, I remember talking to someone on the ground, and then he's voting for the other candidate, and I asked why, and then the reason is because they don't want anyone that's yung post-EDSA government. Parang medyo matingkad yon sa ground na sentimiento as well. Anyway. Okay, so in connection to that question, siguro yung follow-up question is, if our institutions failed us, what do you think needs to be done? Like, say, for example, our education, our schools, universities, the church as an institution, etc.
Mukhang may parang for me na, especially now na ang nakikita ko is simbahan, no? Yung hindi ko alam kung sino nagsabi kanina na parang nasisira yung institution and then parang naaayos. Parang yung pagkasira and yun nga yung parang rifts na nakikita ko ngayon sa for example sa simbahan, for example the people who believe na dapat magdasal lang sila and then hiwalay yung political participation from their faith versus the people na yun nga parang political participation is part and parcel of their faith, no? Tama ba English ko? Pero yun parang that space, no, for me, no, yung perspective ko is I hope it allows for dialogue, no. Na makita yung I don't know if I'm answering it correctly, and if pero parang yun lang, parang 'di ba kaya nga tayo nagkaka-faith in the first place is because there is lack of evidence. Kaya ka tumatalon and say I believe in this, no. So parang ewan ko, yung itong nakikita kong hindi naman kaguluhan, pero yung the differing in opinions, it allows for people to talk about it. And I hope yun yung gawin talaga ng pag-usapan, no, na parang, uy pre, bakit ganito yung pagtingin mo? Tapos ganito yung pagtingin ko. As compared to once upon a time na tahimik lang pala kami pero iba-iba yung values namin. For example, yung sa choir namin, no, kasi babalik siya sa circle ko. Hindi ko alam na parang iba-iba pala yung value systems namin. I thought in the first place na lang talaga parang okay, kebs lang, 'di ba? Pero parang now na nakita ko na ito yung value system nila, tapos ito yung value system nung mga kunwari nakagrupo namin sa choir, no, with the same political inclination. I hope, no, after a few weeks, months or so, magkaroon ng discussion, no, na bakit ganito. To look back on the experience. Yun yung akin.
Yes. Siguro dagdag dun sa sinabi ni Romar, what institutions can do is that consistency, diba? Na parang paulit-ulit tong gawin, yung formations, yung political consciousness raising, gawin mas regularly, no? Hindi lang during elections. Yun nagiging criticism, especially dun sa church, no? Na bakit parang tuwing election lang lumalabas yung mga ganitong klaseng usapan, no? Kaya tuloy pwedeng makita siya na parang pagkakataon pa for hypocrisy, at saka baka nabilihan sila father, siguro ganito ganyan. Kaya siguro din ang hirap magtiwala sa institutions, it's because hindi siya nagiging aligned or hindi siya nagiging consistent, no, in terms of frequency and in terms of the way they live out their ministry. Yun.
Karlo, are you gonna say something?
Hindi. Okay na. I think nasabi na naman nila Romar at saka Jo.
Just, do you have a question for them?
Yeah, okay. Actually, yun, since we're talking about the church, no, what do you think or wish the church should do now? You know, parang, you know, we are in a precarious situation that, of course, though we know for a fact that the church stood up. No, many of our church leaders stood up and chose to actually, you know, align with the specific candidate. And now that everything is done, what do you think should we do now, as a church? Or siguro, pwede rin naman, what do you think our institution should do?
Siguro simulan ko na kasi feel ko yung mga theologians dito sa room may sasabihin mas malupit. Char. Hindi, pero parang for me, the church could be either a stabilizer. Ewan ko like hindi to theological stuff, pero parang yung nasa isip ko, it could either be someone who balances or to continue its prophetic stance, no? And I do know that it may turn off a lot of people, mas magtataas ng kilay, pero parang parang may ganun ako nakikitang paths na pwedeng tahakin ng simbahan ngayon. Hindi lang nung clergy, no, pero pati din yung mga laiko, no. We are at a crossroads pagdating sa nalabas na natin parang we talked about, parang even nga sa content na ginagawa ko, I released things about PCP2, yung political participation and all. Parang ang question ko nga sa content ko ngayon is, do I continue that path or do I go back to just the simple, the ano, and it's a challenge. And I think unang-una muna kailangan pagdaanan yung grief na to, but also yun nga, the discernment. Hindi lang siya yung basta-basta na tama, like yung what pinag-usapan natin kanina na hindi pwedeng bara-bara lang na decide na lang agad. Kailangan talaga nung yun nga, parang to take a step back and to realize kung ano ba yung dapat gawin.
Thank you for that, Romar. Do you think we will ever reach a stage when our nation will have political maturity? And what do we need to do as siguro bilang isang normal na mga mamamayan, ano yung pwedeng iambag natin para kasi syempre the institutions can do their part pero tayo bilang mga mamamayan we also need to pitch in, di ba? What do you think ordinary citizens need to do so that there will come a time that you politically mature?
Pwede ko simulan, no? As in terms of reaching a stage where we're politically mature, no? Kagabi nung pinag-uusapan namin to ng mga kaibigan ko tsaka nung aking fiancé, wow. Parang napansin ko na one of the brightest spots talaga of this campaign is that people are been awakened, no, to a political awakening, no, parang ganun. And I think nakikita ko yun sa iba't ibang paraan, no. Kagabi umiinom kami, yung mga tao sa paligid namin bigla na lang nagchat-chat ng Lenny Kiko, no. Tapos nagiging bahagi na ng day-to-day conversations yung tungkol sa politika, no, whether just to be able to talk about their grief or whether to talk about the process of COMELEC, no, ano ba yung mga dapat na pwedeng gawin para bantayan yung nakaupong presidente ngayon, mga ganyang bagay. Nakita ko talaga sa buong kampanyang ito, no, yung tinatawag siguro na mas participative na politics, no, nagkaroon ng kamalayan yung mga tao na pwede pa lang mag house to house, no, kahit na hindi siguro in the context of an election. Nakita ng mga tao na pwedeng magkaroon ng businesses that are aware of the platforms that they have, ano, and so they're able to use this to advance specific candidates or specific platforms to align themselves or their brand towards that kind of platform. Even artists, celebrities, no, high-profile celebrities are already able to make use of their reach to be able to talk about these things, no. So maganda, no, kasi para sa akin na nagiging in this past months naging bahagi ng pang-araw-araw nating buhay ang usaping politika, and that's always a good start. Kagabi naisip ko parang kung ito yung trajectory ng Pilipinas, no, in terms of our political maturity, no, ang nakikita nating part na to ay siguro maliit na crooked path, no, kasi tingin natin talo tayo, no, pwede na tayo mag-stop dito, pero if we look at the greater trajectory, we're leading towards towards a good direction, no? Hindi lang natin nararamdaman yon because if we know something about the political movements or political shifts, no, in the history of the Philippines, lahat naman yan more than 10 years, no, nabubuo. And pataas nabubuo, no. Walang political shift na nabuo ng isang election lang, okay, ng isang administration lang. It always takes so long, like 10 years, 20 years bago nagkaroon ng ganitong klaseng kamalayan. Sabi ko kanina, itong democracy na meron tayo ngayon, this is a dream come true perhaps for the movements, no, nung unang panahon, especially nung nagsisimula pa lang buuin ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas. So we're leading towards a good direction. Pangit lang tingnan sa ngayon.
I guess for me, tama, ang ganda rin sabi nga ni Joe, maybe it's good to see things in a long route, no? Parang ganun siya. But one of the things I've also, I guess, realized when it comes to democracy is that it's actually sometimes a bit more fluid, no? Parang meaning most people say once we achieve democracy is there to stay. Sadly, hindi, no? More often than not, no? People need to keep doing political things. People need to continue saying that democracy is valuable, and people need to keep saying na we have to deepen the idea of democracy more and more para magstay siya, no? Kasi in the history of the world, actually, nangyayari nga doon, nagkakaroon talaga tayo ng democratic backsliding, democratic reversal, meaning we had the democracy and then suddenly we had an authoritarian regime and then there's going to be a democracy again. So to a certain extent, when we talk about political participation, democratic participation, medyo importante na aktibo yung tao. No? So I think to bridge yung kaninang tanong about the church, I think necessarily the church needs to confront the idea that it has to be involved in socio-political formation. There must be something about our catechesis. There must be something about the way we talk about our faith formation na baka hindi natin nadidipin yung idea na ang simbahan ay parte ng mundo. At kung parte ka ng mundo, kailangan mo talagang makilahok sa mga usaping socio-political. So I think those two are very connected because if we do catechize a faithful that thinks that they don't have to participate in democracy, hindi tayo magmamature. We cannot mature if people do not participate. People need to contend with, kailangan talaga magkaroon ng debates, etc. No? So, yun siguro yung mas iniisip ko, no, as of this moment.
Ako, I have one, siguro I'll make my one last question for me. Yun na nga, maraming negativity and stuff na. Pero, for the past days, but was there any bright spots that you saw in this election? Or, what are the bright spots? If there is.
Ako muna. Ay, sige. Raise ako ng hand. Yung I think yung bright spot na nakita ko sa election na to, especially yun nga, parang active ako dun sa Lenny campaign talaga and all, was yun nga yung ambagan and how much it really reminds me of, I at the end of the day church person ako and nakita ko yung sharing, no, na parang nag-multiply yung resources ng mga tao kasi ready yung kada tao na mag-ambag, no. So for example, nung Saturday sa Makati, no, meron lang ako hawak-hawak na apat na, ano ba yan? Pwede ba magsabi ng brand? Cinnabon, o yun. Tapos biglang naubos yun, bigla. Tapos, pero biglang may bumalik na pagkain. So parang yun yung bright spot na nakikita ko na there was this sense of volunteerism and hope that wasn't really attached to a person only, but something deeper, parang something beyond the person. Ika nga sa sinabi ng isa kong friend na pari sa Leyte, sabi niya na parang someone, hindi yung candidate yung binoboto natin pero a candidate that was pointing to something, no? Yun yung, and I think yun yung bright spot na nakita ko. Yun pose.
Anyone else? Johanne?
Mabilis lang na bright spots nga for me, yun yung parang nakikita ko na ngayon yung mga kabataan na sobrang lungkot after the election, sobrang invested. For the first time, nakita ko kung gaano kalaki yung gravity nitong election na to sa future nila, no? And I think it's because the depression that coming from their generation is because of the fact that they really feel invested in it. Para sa akin, yun na yung pinakamalaking bright spot, no? Na nakita nung mga kabataan yung epekto ng politika sa buhay nila. And from then, hindi na sila pipikit. From then, hindi na natin poproblemahin kung ano ba yung awakening na pwedeng mangyari sa kanila. For some reason, I began feeling na the young or the youth are now able to explore what is good for their generation now. Nagkaroon sila ng ganong klaseng maturity. And I'm really, really glad about that.
I guess para sa akin, two things. We saw very interesting candidates this elections, energizing candidates. Really brought people to mobilize for them. No? So, and that's one. I think that's a bright spot. At tama yung sabi nila George and Romar, iba din yung energy when people feel that politics is real to them. More often kasi people talk about it in a very like theoretical sense, but when you're actually out there doing house to house, when you're actually there going out, that people have experienced what a different kind of politics can be, no? At palagi namin sinasabi ni Save, sana hindi ito makalimutan ng mga tao, no? I mean, kahit hindi manalo ang kandidato, you somehow have experienced what it's like to do politics differently compared to a very trapo kind of politics, no? Ang malaking tanong, and I think the big challenge for everyone is, are we going to continue and sustain? Di ba? Parang it's the fundamental commitment. Naranasan na natin siya. Ang tanong, do we just go back to our private lives? And I think people will go back to their private lives. But how many of us will also stay, di ba, and continue? Because I think that's the invitation. I mean, at the end of the day, if we all go back to our private lives, I think tayo yung talo. Honestly, as in lalo pa tayong matatalo in that sense, no. So ako, I'm at that level now, no, na parang sana this experience of hope and new politics can be sustained, no. That's literally my my prayer from now on and in this whole administration.
Thank you for that, Karlo. We don't have much time. What do you think, what's your message for our viewers? Siguro, isa sa mga disheartened, tapos isa doon sa mga nanalo yung kandidatong gusto nila.
Yeah, very quickly ako, ito yung naging parting words ko kagabi. Medyo hindi siya nakakatulong pastorally, pero sabi ko, the sooner we accept, no, na everything has been designed to assure a Marcos win at this point, no? For the past 6 years, that has been the plan. No? The sooner we accept that that's really bound to happen, the sooner we're able to organize and to respond to that kind of administration, whatever that means for different sectors, right? So, hindi ko sinasabi na mag-move on na tayo agad and let's pick up our assets and let's continue the fight, no? Pero para sa akin, the best way to move forward carrying this anxiety and carrying this helplessness is to try to find our circles where we can organize in whatever way we can towards something more hopeful. No? Nakaka-paralyze kasi, I really understand. Sobrang nakaka-paralyze itong magiging helpless na to. And it's like a spiral, no? A downward spiral. So the more we give into that spiral, the more we're allowing the ill effects of this perceived ill effects of this coming administration to take over. So mas kinakailangan tayong mag-organize ngayon. And the sooner we're able to recognize the reality na ito nga ang magiging buhay natin for the coming years, the sooner we're able to pick up ourselves.
Para sa akin siguro, I think there is a real challenge for us to also look for silver linings, no. It's an unpopular opinion, but I would say it, no. Whatever we've imagined in our heads as the worst things, no, I don't think it's gonna be as bad. Part of me thinks that somehow, ang tanong ko lang palagi sa akin papayag lang ba tayo na mangyari yung worst case scenario? Yun, at the top of my head, that's where I am, no. Do we really just want to see the world crumble? Parang, and I think we don't, right? And we would want some, di ba? Parang we would not allow for that. So I think that's where the silver lining is, right? So at some point, we need to be able to claim and say, no, we're not gonna allow that to happen, na magka-crumble. Second, there are electoral cycles. I always say it's a long-term view, right? At every electoral cycle, we can grab power, we can organize, we can get more people who are aligned with us and what we believe in into positions of power. No? And when we look at it, let us grieve today, but let us also understand that there is a long-term thing that we can look at. No? And that's where hope lies. No? It's not that, palagi ko sinasabi, wala naman sinabi si Cristo, no, na it's gonna be like, easy, dilly-dally, di ba? Madali lang yung buhay na kung sumunod tayo sa kanya. Hindi, di ba? Wala naman sinabi ganun eh. Ang promise lang niya, hope will win, faith will win, goodness will win at the end of the day. And I think that's where we have to hold on to in this whole messy situation.
Romar?
Kung ano yung sinabi ni Karlo, yun na. Joke lang. So, yung sa akin is, yung on one hand, parang I would echo yung sinabi ni Karlo na, kasi, totoo yun eh, parang I think that's a scientific fact na mula sa isang podcast na pinapakinggan ko rin na si Dr. Lori Santos na parang when we expect good things, they don't really come as good when you're there. In the same way na kung kunwari, when you're really expecting bad things to happen, kapag nandyan na sila, it's not as bad as you expected it to be. Parang andun lang siya sa sakto lang. Parang yung buko pie, di ba? Akala mo masarap pero sakto lang pala. Parang ganun, no? May ganong phenomenon, pero parang for me, very poetic as I am, gusto ko talaga si Dylan Thomas na do not go gentle into that good night, tapos rage against the dying of the light. No? So, yun talaga parang babalik ako sa poetry, and I hope that it will inspire a lot of people even more to, now is the time for artists, no, and comedians, and to do your thing in terms of art, no, and bring out the truth through the art forms that we have. Yun lang.
Meron ba kayong ipa-plug? Anything to announce? Or
any invitation, perhaps?
Good luck na lang sa Pilipinas. Pero yun, wala naman.
Ako invite
God bless.
people to bantayan yung mga results, diba? Bantayan kung ano na nangyayari ngayon sa mga sectors na yun, kinakamustahin yung mga sectors ngayon na may bago na administration.
Akin, create spaces for grieving for your own friends. If you have the space and energy, I think it's better you gather your friends and just get people to talk. I think that's what people need. So ako, yun yung pinaka-immediate na gawin natin. No? Yun.
Okay. Ayan po, we don't have time anymore. Totoo nga na mahabang discussion ito. Maraming salamat sa ating mga panauhin. Ang title po ng ating episode ngayon ay Paglaum, which is hope. Kagaya ng sinabi ng ating mga panauhin, we know that to many, parang it's a dark moment, marami pong disheartened, but we hope that you will find hope as well. Kasi para sa akin siguro, kung merong maliit na butas, doon nagsisimulang makapasok yung liwanag. Tapos, we also wanted to share yung sinabi ni Father R.B. Hizon. Sabi niya, today is an Emmaus day for myself and for so many. We had hope and yet we did not and do not hope in vain. Our hearts burned and we broke bread. The Lord was there. The Lord is with us still. He is risen, yes, and still He bears His wounds. So do we. Ayan po.
Ayan. Of course, maraming salamat po sa ating mga kasama ngayong gabi, no? Of course, for keeping us company in this discussion. No? Maraming salamat, no? Karlo, Johanne, and Romar. Yan, so bawi tayo sa mga susunod na araw, at of course we'll keep in touch. Ayan. So ayun. And sa inyo po mga katipuneros, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagsama sa amin for this episode, this 11th of May 2022. Makita-kita po tayo next week for yet another episode of your JMM Radio, only here on Radio-Katipunan 87.9 FM. Sa ngalan po ng aming mga producers na sila Chris, Adam, Judith, and Princess, maraming salamat po. Ako po si Justin Pontino ng Radio-Katipunan.
Ako po si Lester Mendiola at iiwanan po namin kayo ng isang awit ni Father Manoling Francisco performed by the Arceo Chamber Singers, Ang Your Heart Today. Good night, everyone!
Night!
rejoice, refresh, renew, and reflect. Join us for an hour of music that uplifts the soul. Listen to your favorite Jesuit music ministry artists. This is JMM Radio. JMM Radio. Get your day's dose of inspirational music. Tune in to JMM Radio every Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. Only here on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan, the voice